Yeah, I wanted to demo how I've been using the Ralph loop. So I'm going to try to start from scratch with a new idea and get the Ralph loop going. I think it's helpful to understand like what the basic files are that are necessary. You can do a few different versions of it, but this is how I've been doing it. It's working pretty well. So we're going to start from scratch with a new idea. So anyway, I wrote this blog post on my website about these 1,001 real use cases from Google. Google's been maintaining this doc for a while, and it's kind of cool. And they keep updating it, and so now it's up to 1,300 use cases. So they document real world use cases that organizations are implementing, and they're using Google. They're showcasing Google AI services and applications. But these use cases, I think, are useful because they can be AI agnostic. You don't have to use Google services. So anyway, I've been using this to generate ideas, and I think it's pretty cool. So anyway, I'm going to scroll down to the area for financial services. Uh, And let's just do this. This is what I did last time to come up with some ideas. So I'm just gonna highlight or copy all the stuff for financial services and creative agents, code agents, data agents, yada 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 yada. Security agents. All right, so that's it. I'm gonna copy that, and I'm gonna add that to my Claude project here. Under files, add text content. We'll call this Google um, Real World Financial Services AI Use Cases. Go ahead and add that. And then what we're going to do is let's say something like based on the or let's see what it comes up with. Leading intelligence layer, loan officer, co-pilot for education. Most lending automation handles assumption doesn't specifically. Let's focus on number one. Number one. You'll need to close it without with access. There need to generate a document that I can use all right, so let's focus on number one. So this regulatory drift detector. We're going to build it with the dummy data or publicly available data as we don't have access to any proprietary data. Generate a product requirements document that I can give to another agent to generate the specs. Ask questions if you need clarification for anything. The PRD should be marked down. Okay, let's see what it comes up with. Okay, so that's some clarifying questions. That's good. Which regulatory domain should we focus on? U.S. banking. Let's just start with U.S. banking. Yeah. What's the primary demo persona we're selecting? Chief Compliance Officer. Yeah, let's do that one. How autonomous should the agent be in the demo? Detect and alert only, detect and draft red lines for human approval, full agent detect. Detect and alert only, or should we price search? Speed recognition. Okay, detection. Let's do that one. And what's the build target for the demo? Click prototype, mock backend. Working MVP with real ingestion plus. Let's do that one. I like that one. Working MVP. All right, got it. Let me drop the PRD now. It's doing its thing. Okay, so that finished. So we're going to go ahead and save the PRD markdown file into our repo. And so the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to ask Claude Code to essentially generate the initialization prompt, and also then the initialization prompt is going to help us generate the features list. But so these are the main files that I've been using to do a good Ralph loop. And I guess I can go through each one. You can come up with your own version of this. They don't have to be exactly the same, but some of this came from experimentation. Some of it came from other YouTube creators. Some of it came from reading Jeffrey Huntley's website. Some of it also came from reading this Anthropic this Anthropic document, which is really useful, called Effective Harnesses for Long-Running Agents. And some of it came from using Claude Code and asking it to read this document and come up with the scaffolding. But the main files are the most important ones are. I like to set this up like as with a folder for specs, and then like if I have multiple phases, I'll put phase 1, phase 2, whatever. There's a coding prompt, and this is like the main prompt. This prompt is what the loop calls, and it has all the details for each iteration. This one's pretty detailed, and I actually worked back and forth with Claude to come up with this, or Claude Code to come up with this. It starts with information about what it's doing. It tells it to follow these steps in order. It asks it to do a git log, just see what the last stuff is, the last commit was. It asks it to read the progress file, which is the file it's going to commit to at the end, the feature list, the app spec. Then it asks it to check on the dev server, and if the dev server is up, or if it's not responding, it says to go ahead and start it up. It's got a separate. It calls a separate script for the dev server, and that's in here as well. It runs npm install. It does a regression check, meaning it checks for other bugs and make sure stuff isn't working. If it is, it fixes it. And then it'll go and it'll look at the feature list, and it'll pick the highest priority item that is not passing and work on it, basically. The other thing I put in here, it's only supposed to work on one feature at a time. And I had to mess with this quite a bit because it tends to want to do more than one feature. So it's really important, if you have trouble, make sure you put more caps. one feature. It tells it to go ahead and finish the spec, or code it or whatever. And then it also gives it testing instructions. It tells it to run unit tests, integration tests, and then also, in our case, it's going to run the Playwright MCP server for the end-to-end tests, and it will take a screenshot, and it'll put the screenshot in the screenshots folder, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. Let's see. It runs the test suite, updates the feature list. So once it's passing, it'll update the feature list from false to true, and then there's some instructions about, like, do not do any of this stuff. Don't remove any features from the feature list. Yada yada yada. I'll put all this in the link in the YouTube video or the comments or something. And then also it tells it at the end to note its progress in the progress.txt file. I'm gonna make this AI agnostic and just call it progress, not Claude progress, because sometimes I also run this with Codex CLI, and also run it with local LLMs. You're going to hit rate limits with the Ralph loop. And then at the end, I ask it, we tell it to make a git commit, and it tell it precisely what the commit should contain. And then at the end, there's session cleanup that breaks down the dev server, make sure it's not running, yada, yada, yada. And just again, reminder, only one feature at a time, yada, yada, yada. So that's the main, that's like the meat of it. And then progress.txt, this is where it's going to keep its progress. It's empty right now. This is the init script. This script gets run at the beginning of every loop. It just makes sure everything is installed, make sure node is installed, gets installed, npm, yada, yada, yada. It'll do the Prisma check. It'll make sure the database schema is up to date. And what else? Yeah, start the dev server. This is what you do to start the dev server, and then it'll call the dev server up script, and we'll take a look at that. This is the dev server up script. This one, I think Claude Code put this together for me. It's, has a lot of error checking, which is great. Dev down, same thing. Make sure the error checking, or make sure that the dev server is down. So this is the feature list. This is the feature list. It looks like the feature list was generated. This is the full feature list. Usually the way I had to do it previously, I did that with the initialization prompt. But anyway, you can see what the feature list is here. Each one has an ID. There's a total number of features. And the most important part is the steps to verify that it's actually implemented and whether or not it's passing. And they are all start with passing is false. And as it works through the features, it will change those to passing equals true. And that's how you know where it stopped, if you need to stop it, or if it breaks or something like that. And then the Ralph loop itself. So this is the loop itself. You don't have to run this in a separate file. You could run this from the command line. But this one got pretty complicated. It started out simple, but then it got a little more complicated. So I actually updated this so that I could run it with Claude and also Codex. You can both run them in line. So they both work for this version of the Ralph loop, which I have to switch between each one because I keep hitting rate limits with both of them. And so anyway, you can pass a switch to run it with Codex or Claude. First thing it'll do is it will, and then the other thing is you can pass the number of iterations. So this thing will run autonomously until the end, until the output prompt has something including complete in it. But if not, it will run until the number of iterations have completed that you passed in to on the command line switch, which I think is a good way to kind of keep an eye on how that the way I've been running is I run usually like 10 20 iterations just to make sure everything is looking good and it's committing everything. For the most part it works fine, but I'm not, I don't have unlimited tokens, so I kind of like to keep not waste all my tokens. So then this is the meat of it. It runs in a loop for the number of iterations you pass. It'll choose the runner Claude or Codex. The default I think is Claude. And then what it'll do is it'll cat the prompt, and then it'll run the prompt, and then it will check to see if the output is complete, and if it is, it'll stop. Otherwise, it'll keep going until the number of iterations is reached. And for Claude, this is kind of important. You have to pass the allowed tools. In this case, I'm doing read, write, edit, grep, bash, glob, and MCP playwright. Otherwise, it will fail. It'll require your permission every time. And for Codex, I'm doing YOLO. So I don't know if Codex has a way to do specific tools, but this way we're just allowing specific tools for Claude. And yeah, so that's the other important part of the Ralph loop. So all these together work pretty well. I have an MCP.json set up for Playwright. It's using npx, so you shouldn't actually have to install it. I don't know. This is the other MCP.json for Playwright. We might have to install MCP too. I don't remember if I did that in this project, but yeah. So yeah, coding prompt. Okay, so here's the init prompt it came up with. So this initialization prompt, we can copy and paste this into Claude Code, and what it's going to tell us, blah, 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 what it's building, yada, yada. Deliverables, initialization, it's going to do, set up for the next JS app, set up for all the other stuff, Tailwind, Prisma, TV push, all that stuff. It's going to just set up environment.local, placeholder pages, sidebar, sub API routes, yada, 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 create the directories for the feature work, sets up jest, whatever we need in the package.json for jest, type checks, and then the initial git commit. So, and then it tells us exactly what's done. Yeah. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do Control A, Control C, and we're going to open up Claude Code and run this. Go through these files in a minute, but I still want to generate the feature list first. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to go back to this effective harnesses for long-running agents document that Anthropic wrote. And we're going to ask Claude Code to read it or study it and use the information to generate the feature list and an initialization prompt. So let's do something like this. Okay, let's see. Actually, let's copy paste this. Okay, extract the information needed to write. So generate the features list. Okay, so study doc that Anthropic wrote for effective harnessing. Use concepts to extract information needed to write an initialization prompt that will generate the feature list and app spec necessary to implement the requirements laid out in the PRD in this app. The PRD is called study it and use what you learn to fill in the app spec, generate the prompt for initialization that splits out the requirements into all the individual features and put them in the feature list.json. Ask questions if you need clarification. So some of that's kind of repetitive. I could probably clean that up, but I don't know. Let's see what it does. I haven't given it any detail yet on what tech stack to use, so we'll probably ask questions about tech stack and we'll fill that in. And it generated 3 files. It generated an appspec.txt. It updated and generated features list.json, 78 features, which isn't exactly what I wanted. I wanted it to, this isn't for phase 1. I wanted it to generate the initialization prompt that would generate the features or the JSON feature list. Okay. Well, so here's the other thing that I forgot to do. I forgot to put Claude in plan mode, and the thing about Claude Code is it tends to like to do things it tends to like to do more than you ask it to do. I've noticed, so I have to be really specific. In this case, I dodged a bullet, and it only created the files I wanted it to create, which is nice. But I have in the past, when I've tried to do this, I had to be very specific. Like if I did plan mode and it tried to actually write the code, and I was like, no, don't do that. So anyway, it created the files I wanted. Like I mentioned, I didn't give it any previous information about the tech stack, so it looks like it created or generated a tech stack. And it put it in the app spec. So right now it's recommending Next.js 14, and I actually think we're at 16 now, so we'll update that. TypeScript, that seems good. Prisma for the ORM, that's great. Cloud API, that's fine. Tailwind and Shadcyan, I don't know how you say that, but anyway, that's popular right now. Yeah, definitely Tailwind. Project structure, Prisma, API routes, 6-step drift detection pipeline. So the pipeline, I'm not sure what it wants to use to create the pipeline. Typically, I've been using like Azure Cloud Functions to do that kind of stuff. And so let's actually look at the app spec because we don't want to get that wrong. Well, let's make this bigger. Okay, let's see. Phase 1 MVP. Source truth, Next.js 14 plus. Is stunning testing. Just embeddings, Void.ai or OpenAI text embedding. Configurable via environment. Let's say actually text embedding 3 small. I'm going to use whatever, some sort of an Azure OpenAI deployment. So we can worry about this later, whether or not we'll use the OpenAI OpenAI API key for the embeddings. I probably will. I've been using an Azure model deployment, but I don't think it matters right now. We can worry about that later. The Claude model, obviously, it's using an old one here. So let's do this. I think let's try this. And then we'll just get rid of that. I don't know if this will work or not. We might have to change this later. But if we do, it's not the end of the world. I'm sure we can. And it's not. Opus 4.7. We'll change that later. It looks like these are all right. The other thing I had to change is for the pipeline portion of it. I actually asked Claude to explain, or Claude Code, how to explain how the pipeline, what mechanism the pipeline uses to run, and it says it did not actually plan that out. So we're going to skip it for now, basically, and then we're going to use something like an Azure function in the future. And I asked it to be specific in the spec. So yeah, that's what we do with that. So anyway, the pipeline portion is going to run only from the app itself, from a button in the app itself for now. And let's see if we scroll down to the bottom. This is everything about the database, schema, yada yada. Step 1, alert creation. Step 4, ingestion parameters, parser behavior. That all looks fine. Nothing in here that I feel like needs to be changed based on what we've seen so far. This all seems reasonable to me. For the tech stack, maybe we should be more specific about which Next.js to use. And we're at 16.2.4. Yeah. So let's just go ahead and do that. Next.js latest 4. And we're using app router, so that's fine. And I think that's good. That all looks good to me. All right. So the next thing I want to take a look at is what it generated for our feature list. If this is a full list of features or if this is just, okay, look, infrastructure, Prism schema, and then what's at the bottom here? UI, okay. All right, well, let's see what the initialization prompt came up with. I decided to call this tether. I had it help me come up with a name for that. What it does, deliverables, step 1, initialize it, to set up Prisma, alerts, app shell, all that looks fine, create stub routes, testing setup, initial git commit. That's great. That all looks good to me. Tailwind. We're gonna go. What did we say? 16. We got 4. And then let's see. Yeah, Prisma, schema with 7 models, 78 features. Okay. Section 0, what was done. Also, features of the stone. Okay. All right, that looks good to me. It's not totally clear to me whether this represents the full list of features. 78 seems slim to me. Prisma schema, environment configuration, share types, layout, corpus, 0 policy documents, and aspect feature list, coding prompt. Okay. All right. Cool. Well, let's see. Let's ask Claude Code. Does 78 feature? Do the 78 features to complete the MVP or the PRD, or are they only a portion or initial phase? Let's see what it says here. No auth login. We can deal with auth login later. Here's it mentions evaluation harness and hand labels. It's not saying it's arguably a tooling key like server rather than user face feature for some security usage. Want me to add a eval harness feature to the feature list or treat? Okay. Well, for this, let's just skip it for now. So, the following is scope by the PRD. Okay. All right. Great. I love it. All right. I think for this demo, this is a good start. So, all right. And we're just going to start with a fresh session. We don't even have a Claude.md set up yet, but I want to just start fresh every time. And there's no context. And I'm just going to go ahead and paste in our initialization prompt and hit enter, see what it comes up with. Probably should have started with the plan, but whatever. This is our plan, right? Initialization prompt is our plan, theoretically anyway. So we'll let it do its thing and see what it comes up with. Actually, I had to copy and paste the last 3 steps into Claude Code again because I wasn't paying attention. I hit escape while it was working. And yeah, so, but it completed all the steps in the initialization prompt to create the scaffolding or, the starter for our project. And so it now has Prisma all set up. It's got the TypeScript and Next.js all set up with Tailwind. And it's got the app shell header component and the directory for the remaining items. And it's got the test framework set up with Jest, and then it wrote the initial progress entry, and also it committed it to source control. So, and then next parameters. So I went ahead and ran it with npm run dev. This is what it looks like at the moment. It's just a shell. And this is the source control commit that it made here. This is the initial commit, and then also in progress.txt, it made a note of what progress it made, the state of the features, and what it completed and what's left to do. So we now have everything we need to start a Ralph loop. So let's do that. Before we do that, just really quickly, this is how much context we use for the initialization prompt. You can see it's hardly any, which is what we were trying to achieve. One of the things we're trying to mitigate with the Ralph loop is context rot. And the way we do that is by firing up an agent for each feature. And first 5 iterations finished. It took about 30 minutes, half an hour. 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. And it finished the 5 iterations. And we can go take a look at the features list, and they should be updated. The first 5 should say passes true, passes true. They do. So we can go verify those in a second. And then we can also look in the screenshots and make sure it took screenshots. And it looks like it took screenshot the first one, second one, third one. So that's great. That's what we're looking for. And then also the progress, we can look at the progress.txt and it'll tell us what it did for each session or iteration. Session 2 worked on the Prisma schema, yada, 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 what we've done, next priorities, yada, yada, yada. So, and then we can also look and verify in the commits. We can see it made 5 commits. The first one being that each one is linked to the particular feature ID. So info 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it started on the first layout. So scheme is defined, environment configuration is set up, it has sample anthropic key and database URL. We'll need to update that actually. Infrastructure types, the types are defined. And then I think it did the first layout one. Yes, the first layout one here says application shell fix left. So basically, it's just making sure that the initial plumbing is set up. So, and verifying that it is, and it went and it did that. Let's go ahead and kick off the next 3. So again, I'm doing this from a WSL shell because we're using a bash script. So I'm going to do Ralph and sh, and we'll do 3, and we will kick that off and see what happens. When it's starting up and running the initialization script and the Prisma client, make sure everything is up to date on the database schema. And let's see here. So active navigation is going to work on that one. That one's already pretty much done. It's going to set up the health check, which is great. I don't know if that one's done. I don't think it is. And then this is the one I think it'll be really obvious. It's going to create a dummy policy document, yada, 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 verify that it exists, 2 to 5 pages of substantive policy language. So that one, I don't know if that one's going to be super evident in the application itself. But either way, yeah. Iteration 1 and iteration 1 is kicked off, and then we'll come back when those iterations are finished, take a look at what it's done. Like I thought would happen, I let it run overnight, and it ran into rate limits. And I do have the $200 a month max plan for Anthropic, and I'm still hitting these rate limits. So it looks like the rate limits could have been reset, at 1:30 a.m. But I was, I set this to run overnight and went to bed. So, I'll do another YouTube video on how we could circumvent these rate limits. But yeah, we'll kick this off again, and maybe we'll kick it off with Codex this time. So anyway, but you can see all the commits that it made. It made good progress. We got to about feature 35, it looks like, and that was the last one that got set to true in the passing. Yeah, you can see kind of all the screenshots it took. It looks like it did not take a bunch of screenshots because probably these are all backend, so there's not really a whole lot to show you in terms of what changed on the app itself. But when this finishes, I'm gonna set it to run during the day, and when it finishes, we'll take a look at what it finished. So, um, and then let's see. But this is an app I built the other day using the same method, and you can see it. It works pretty well. The front end of the UI isn't exactly what I was looking for, but I have some friends that work in the trades, and this is supposed to be for people who are subcontractors to identify building permits in SF area that have not had a subcontractor permit filed yet. And so, anyway, I put this together. It has a paywall. It was set up with Stripe. It's got a nice landing page. It's got a sign up process. It's got integration with Google Auth. You can see it's pretty cool. It's not everything that I wanted, but it achieves the goal I wanted to. It has a pipeline, it has an Azure function pipeline. It's got billing, it's got settings. All the settings work properly. You can set the categories and the neighborhoods and the minimum amount you're interested in. You can also configure it to send you notifications. All this works, and so it does achieve what I was hoping to achieve. So the main thing that I was after is I want to identify building permits that don't have, like, for example, this one's set up for a plumber, that don't have plumbing permits filed yet. So, and then you can track the lead. It's a little bit like, a CRM. And then we could potentially integrate this with a CRM. So anyway, the building permit's been issued, but no trade has been issued. The styling isn't perfect on the dark, but yeah, it's pretty cool. It does an AI analysis. It uses OpenAI's API behind the scenes to run this AI analysis and pull it into an Azure database. And yeah, so it's pretty cool. It's got an Azure database. It's running in Azure, and this is an example of something I built using the Ralph loop. So let's go ahead and kick off our loop again and see how much further we can get here. So again, we're doing this from a WSL shell, and we're going to do Ralph loop. This time we're going to do Codex. Actually, let's try Codex. Let's make sure we're logged into Codex first. And we're going to do Ralph loop, and we'll do Codex, and we're going to do maybe 20. This is just to demonstrate that you can use either Codex CLI or Anthropic's Claude for this. And we can also set it up to run with local LLMs, which is something I will do another YouTube video on. So, all right, and it started. So I'll post another video in the future so we can take a look at what this app looks like when we're done. So hopefully you found that useful. If you liked it, like the video, subscribe if you want to see more content like that. And also I'm going to add a GitHub repo link to the video so that you can use it to set up your own Ralph loop pretty quickly. So see you next time.